Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
Now let's get this party started.
You're listening to
Sorry, Rocket fan. What'd you think? Live by the three, die by the three wasn't a cliche for a reason? They did live by it. They did die by it. Last night, they fell to the L.A. Clippers. The Clippers are 10-0 when they're at full strength, when they're at full capacity of power. Kawhi Leonard was the best player on the floor. James Harden was chucking and ducking. Russell Westbrook was inefficient as ever. And the Rockets, stop me if you heard this before, missed way too many threes. Somewhere Daryl Morey is tweeting out that people are unfair in their critique who's broadcasting the game. Look, I wouldn't even say it's about the three. It's about the fact that they don't play or didn't play any defense. The Clippers, it was a layup fest. Layup, dunk, easy shot, layup, dunk. Make the extra pass. And the Clippers put the league on notice. Look, there are some games that just mean more in the NBA. Some games don't. We like to call them Cologne games on my radio show, the Doug Gottlieb Show, which airs 3 to 6 Eastern, 12 to 3 Pacific, after this show on Fox Sports Radio. You know, because I'm not a Cologne every day sort of guy. Right? Then it kind of gets embedded in your skin. It doesn't have the same effect, right? But every once in a while, you throw on a little cologne, whether you do it right in the middle of your chest. I guess that actually helps spread out like your body oils or something, or on your neck, or you just do a little bit on your... Last night was at the Cologne game. That's the Rockets, who, of course, have played so much better since trading away Clint Capella, completely going small ball. They beat the Lakers with this exact same style. Now it's the Clippers. And they failed miserably. Weren't terribly competitive. They lose 120-105 at home. Stop me if you heard this before, but an important game. The Rockets lost at home and missed a ton of threes. Who would have thought? Oh, and Mike D'Antoni's team wasn't committed to defense. Who would have thought? But to me, this is more about the Clippers. It's more about the Clippers and the plan perfectly coming together. Anytime I say the word plan, I feel like what's not Smithers? What's the Mr. From Mr. Burns? Excellent, right? That's what Steve Ballmer, instead of jumping out of his chair and being super fan, he should do the Montgomery Burns and just sit there and go, excellent. You know? I'm not sure who the Boski is or the Jim Brown. This or the Ella Fitzgerald. This reminds me like Ocean's 11 and the plan kind of suddenly coming together. Like they signed Kawhi. Like they signed Kawhi Leonard. He's going to go there and not play with them. Oh, they trade for Paul George. Oh, okay. Well, you got Paul George coming off shoulder surgery and Kawhi Leonard. Will he play? Oh, they are going to load manage. Okay. They beat the Lakers first game of the season just to show like we still, we're kind of good. Then Marcus Morris, the Lakers won. Oh, we'll go get him. Lakers want a point guard. Let's go get Reggie Jackson. Both buyouts to bolster their depth. to help out the fact that Patrick Beverley hasn't been fully healthy, and to allow them the versatility and flexibility of lineup to play against small ball teams like last night with the Rockets. I sat here on this couch and I told Colin that my friends with the Clippers told me 6 months ago. The plan was, we don't care if we're the best team in November. We don't care if we're the best team in December. January, not that important, but we hope it's starting to come together. February, it starts to get real. By March and April, we want to be the best team in the NBA. Figure out what we got. Figure out roles. Manage the fact it's kind of a rotating roster. Not always going to have Kawhi. Not always going to have Paul George. Who else is capable of carrying the load? How do we work in Lou Williams? Can Montrezl Harrell truly be a starter? Does he have to be off the bench? All of these things coming together. The perfect plan. It doesn't mean that they're going to take over L.A., and there's that other story with Steve Ballmer that came out this week. He's not only trying to build an arena in Inglewood, the former longtime home of the Lakers since they moved out from Minneapolis before they moved to Staples, but he actually wants to buy the Forum, which is weird. Right? Wants to buy the Forum that the Lakers won all those Showtime championships with, and then wants to build another building down the street. That thing's weird. But this, again, is all a part of the Ballmer plan. Excellent. Right. You had some discussions about possible infighting. Patrick Beverley shot it down. You had a couple of nagging injuries. Guys miss games. Patrick Beverley misses games, and suddenly they don't have the same production. People start to be aware of just how important he is as the straw that stirs the drink. And Kawhi Leonard has shown us in games like this one, in games like the two against the Lakers, in Cologne games, if you will. Don't put it on every night. But when it matters, he's the alpha of a group of junkyard dogs. Their sixth straight win. They're 10-0 when they're at full strength. The thing is coming together. And whether or not they get the 1, the 2, the 3, that doesn't matter. That's not part of the plan. Right? They're not necessarily trying to bluff their way, right? It's not like you go and you're like, I'll lose a hand or two, so people don't know when you're bluffing. Like you can't, if you have a card up your sleeve and you're cheating, you want to lose a card, It's like the Astros. Hey, if you really wanted to not get caught, maybe you shouldn't have always known what every sign was. Maybe you should have thrown them off the trail a little bit. The Clippers had a plan in place. Let's get Kawhi. Let's pair him with Paul George. They even leaked out some of those stories about, hey, the Lakers really thought they were getting Kawhi, trying to pollute the waters, trying to take over be LA's basketball team. Then they beat the Lakers early on. Then they beat the Lakers to Reggie Jackson. Whether the Lakers wanted Reggie Jackson or didn't want Reggie Jackson, they wanted a guard. And they couldn't get Darren Collison to come out of retirement, and they couldn't get one off the buyout market until yesterday. They go and get the Morris that everybody thought the Lakers wanted. Let's go get Marcus Morris. The Lakers have to turn and get Markieff Morris. I don't know if anybody actually knows who the better Morris is. Right? And truth be told, if they went in the locker room and switched jerseys at halftime when they're playing against each other, no one would know because they're actually identical. I don't think people understand what identical twins are. If you have twins, you understand identical twins means literally identical. Tattoos, I believe, are different on the two. I'm not sure. And their style of game is different. But if you're watching last night, could your takeaway be the Rockets live by the 3, they ultimately die by the 3? Sure. Could your takeaway be that Mike D'Antoni's teams are always going to come up short, especially the defensive end? Sure. It is almost cliche now. It's expected that in a big must-win game, the Rockets will lose, specifically at home. I believe their last 4 years they've lost in the playoffs, it has ended all at home, which is weird. They got a beautiful home court. They got great fans. They're a good team. They can score. And all of a sudden, it's one thing to go cold like they did from 3 last night. What were they, 7 for 42? It's a whole other thing to do that consistently at home in a big game. And for James Harden to disappear. But this is Rockets 101. What'd you come to expect? What you might not have expected is the Clippers to look like the best team in the NBA at the exact time where they wanted the league to know they're the best team in the NBA. You don't have to be great every night in the league for the league to take notice. But if you're the best team on the nights that matter, the league will take notice regardless of what seed you are. The Lakers story is incredible, and the Lakers take on the Bucks tonight at Staples, a rematch of a game where Giannis hit 5 threes. The Lakers were at the end of a really long and arduous road trip. They were on fumes, and LeBron might have been the third best player on the floor that night. We'll see. We'll get to what we expect of the Lakers tonight in a second. But last night wasn't that much about the Rockets. They're going to have to mismatch you and make those shots if they're going to beat you, upset anybody. And frankly, they match up better for them with the Lakers than they do the Clippers. What last night was about was a perfectly lined out plan. If you want to go Ocean's 11, good for it. Good for you, right? Where all those things came together. The fight, the power being out, the argument between the two brothers, all the different little things that came together. And somewhere in a palatial estate, after getting off the plane early in the morning, coming back from Houston to Steve Ballmer, looking like Montgomery Burns. Excellent. All right, coming up next. LeBron has entered the MVP discussion. But wait till you hear what LeBron thinks of the MVP discussion. I think he's being far less than honest. I'll share that with you next. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is The Herd. Hate your job? Maybe it's time for a new career. You can start a new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. It's not rocket science. It's my computer career. I love anybody who uses "it's not rocket science" as a way to make their point. I do that all the time. Right? We talk about coaches and play. We're like, hey, look, if this was rocket science, you know who would be on the sidelines? Rocket scientists. It's not rocket. You got dudes with PE degrees over there yelling at other dudes who don't even have degrees. Like, we're all a bunch of dopes just playing sports trying to entertain you, which leads us to guys like me, dopes that played sports trying to entertain you, talking about other dopes that played sports and trying to entertain you all at the same time. Does that make any sense? Not sure if I did. Might have been a circular conversation that worked better inside my head. Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is The Herd. We got a great show for you. They booked it as if Colin was here. That's a good thing, right? Gottlieb's here is like, get him whatever. Chris Broussard will join us. We'll get his thoughts on tonight's game. Bucks versus Lakers. Rematch for the Lakers at home. Last time, they're like, man, 14-day road trip. We're tired. Giannis hits 5 threes. He hadn't hit 5 threes before or since. Just one of those games. And they looked like an inferior team. They just did not look ready for showtime. We'll see tonight. Speaking of LeBron. So I believe that LeBron James should be not just in consideration, but a leader in the clubhouse for MVP. And now you might sit there and go, hey, Giannis has the league's best PER. You're not wrong. Giannis' team had a better record. You're not wrong. And Giannis' team is completely constructed around his strengths. You're not wrong. Like, you take Giannis, it's not like a four-legged chair, right? Like a four-legged chair, you take off one leg and you can still sit in it. It's not comfortable. It rocks or whatever. But this is basically a bar stool. And if you take Giannis out, you're sitting on the floor. That's how that team is constructed. But everybody outside of 3, he goes one-on-one. And since very few teams in the league have what Miami has, Bam Adebayo, a guy of similar length, similar strength, similar athleticism, who can guard him man up, and a team totally committed, at least in the regular season, to helping and getting back to shooters. Unless you have that kind of perfect matchup and style the Heat have, you're going to struggle. This is not a shot at Giannis. He doesn't shoot it well. He doesn't shoot well from the free throw line, but he amasses a ton of stats. He does lead the league. in usage rating. Okay, so what you're going to have to, one of the things that we struggle with as fans is we look at the raw data. We look at the gross statistics. And the gross statistics, whether it's Russell Westbrook, the last 3 years averaging a triple-double 3 straight years, like, why do you think that is? Well, he had a high usage rating. We play at a greater pace than we've seen since like the 1970s. So more possessions, and one guy having the ball more often within more possessions, you're going to have more stats. Duh. And that's a little bit of what the Bucks do. They play at a fast pace. They shoot a lot of threes, and he has the ball a lot during it. He doesn't play as many minutes per game as LeBron does. My argument for LeBron being the MVP is I don't think any of this happened. I don't think there's another player in the NBA who you could put on the Lakers and they would have this good of a year. And I've said, and this gets confusing to people because I am arguing semantics. I think that at this point in his career, Kawhi is a better basketball player. Like LeBron can't really guard Kawhi. Kawhi can guard LeBron. So you're sitting there telling me like, wait, you're contradicting yourself. I'm really not, because there's so much more that goes into what I believe LeBron James is doing. Look, I think if you take Giannis off of the Bucks and you put Ben Simmons on the Bucks, I'm not sure he doesn't have the same sort of statistical dominance because, again, the lane is all clear. Like, okay, he doesn't shoot threes, but it's not like Giannis is lighting it up. He's shooting like barely 30% from three. You put LeBron on that team. You put Kawhi on that team. You put, pick a guy. You put James Harden on that team. Heck, that's what the Rockets are doing for Russell Westbrook, really, is clearing out the lane and letting their best athlete get to the rim with nobody there in the way, right? So, well, you're like, well, that sounds like, no. What I'm saying is what LeBron is doing, which is quarters 1 through 3, oftentimes sacrifices ego and tries to get Anthony Davis going. Anthony Davis barely scores in the fourth quarter. They're trying to work through it. They're trying to make him into more of an alpha. He only plays about half the fourth quarter, and he's yet to get that give me the ball, let everybody get out the way that they want from him. He manages that well. He manages the fact that he's 35. He can't guard dudes as well, but they're a great defensive team. Why? Because he demands it, he prepares, and though he can't always do it himself, he's like a center fielder telling everybody else where they're supposed to be. He's coaching, he's playing, he's leading, and in the fourth quarter when it's winning time, who do you think is going to get the basketball? And then if you just stop for a second and said, okay, is Rondo any good anymore? Your answer would be no. I love Alex Caruso. Who doesn't love Alex Caruso? But he was in the G League at times last year for a reason. He's a great story, but would he be a starter on any other Western Conference playoff team? The answer is no. Avery Bradley's not having a particularly good year. He's just not. JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, look, a lot of people laughed at this roster. As bad as last year's was, at least you had the possibility of upside with Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart and Lonzo Ball. These guys don't have upside. These guys are on the downside of some very average careers. And yet they got the best record in the best division, and his leadership, preparation, shot making, ability to make others better, quarters 1 through 3. And here's the other part. When LeBron James comes to town, it's the biggest show on earth. It's not just LeBron, it's LeBron tied to the Lakers. So I think he's the MVP. But take a listen to this. He was asked about being the MVP or mentioned in MVP discussions. And he went full LeBron.
It's never motivated me. Regular season MVP has never motivated me. To be the best to ever play the game has motivated me and has resulted in me being able to be league MVP a couple times. But I've never gone into the season saying, okay, league MVP is what I want to be. I've gone into the season saying, okay, I want to be the MVP of this team. I want to be the best player in the world. And how I approach my game every day, how I take care of my body every day has resulted in things like that.
The idea that LeBron James has never cared, maybe it's never motivated him to start the season per se. He hasn't won it in 7 years. He's won 4 of them. It's really easy to say you don't care about the MVP when you've won 4 of them. You're like, yeah, I've won 4. That's like the guy who's won 4 Oscars going the Oscars, I'm really looking for my fellow movie maker to think I do a great job. I don't care about the Academy as much. Or I want the fans to be happy. Well, that's because you've won 4 Oscars. I don't care about the Grammys. That's not what it's about. It's about connecting with the fans at concerts. Like, that's because you've won 4 Grammys. But the idea that, like, I don't really care about the MVP, when they beat the Pelicans, he had an interview, I think, with George Sedano after the game where he basically said it was important. Like, he wants people to know. And he's doing this thing where he's like, let other people handle talking about the MVP. I won't talk about the MVP, but it's so disingenuous. I've only cared about being the best player on earth, not being the MVP, which technically recognizes the best player that season in the NBA. Like, he's doing the semantics thing. He's doing the, look, I'm LeBron. I'm really smart. I'm not taking the bait. I'm not walking into a trap. You know, I walked into it remember with the Steph Curry thing, which he was right. Steph Curry wins the unanimous MVP, and they win 73 games. And his point at the time was, hey, look, Steph's set records. They're setting records as a team. He deserves it. But when you talk about true value, there's more that goes into it than just sometimes points, assists, and wins. There can be more that goes into it, which would have been a good answer here. But instead, he goes, LeBron, I don't, MVP, it's never motivated me. Got you, LeBron. Sure. Let's get to our award-winning newsman, John Goulet.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So, Doug, as we wait for Tom Brady to either re-sign with the Patriots or hit free agency for the first time in his career, people around the NFL keep weighing in on what they think Brady will do. Last week, Mahomes said, don't think he's going to go anywhere. And this week, it's Drew Brees giving his thoughts on where Brady will end up and what he might want. Take a listen.
Well, I can't speak for Tom, but I know for me, being at this stage in my career, I just want to win. I think Tom has been a guy who's kind of been the model for all of us for a lot of years. I don't think any of this is about money for Tom. I think it's about winning another championship. I also think it's probably about feeling like he's in a situation where he's got all the pieces in place to do that. So, again, I can't speak for him, but I know at this stage in the game and knowing his mentality to a degree, it's about winning a championship.
Actually, pretty accurate, right? You're doing one of these you did it on the nose, right?
Mostly, except for he has all the pieces to win a championship. I would disagree with that. I think that's Brady's problem with the Patriots, right? Is they're missing some pieces he needs to win a championship. But Brees probably understands what Brady is going through more than any of us, right? On the other side of 40, quarterback, you could retire, you could keep playing.
Oh, yeah. Like,
first
of all, like, let's not undersell the fact that Drew Brees is still playing, and it's, I think, at least in some form or fashion, because Tom Brady's still playing, right? He has the records, and Tom Brady will catch his the whole, hey, records were meant to be broken. Yeah, not the very next season. That's not really the whole idea behind it, right? But I think, like, in terms of how we should really look at Tom Brady, what he is the model. Plus, he is a model, right? It's kind of uncomfortable how good-looking he's become. And he wasn't always that good looking. I don't know how the hair gets better. I obviously don't have that ability. But he is the model. What's he the model of? Consistency of winning, okay? And longevity of health and of success. So where's the greatest likelihood? It's a math problem. Where's the greatest likelihood of sustained success? New England.
Sure.
It just is. And I think that the question actually answers itself.
Patrick Mahomes is in kind of an interesting position. He's eligible to sign an extension with the Chiefs this offseason. He's also doing it coming off of a regular season MVP season followed by a Super Bowl MVP season.
Yep.
So it's fair to say he's going to get the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. Mahomes said, though, he doesn't want his contract to hurt the team. He said, quote, when you look back on your career, you want to look back and see a lot of success, a lot of wins. Obviously, I want to get a contract, but I want to make sure I do it the smart way and do it the right way. I know that my people and the Chiefs people will talk about it, and will do it at the right time and for the betterment for the team, but I'm excited to be a Chief for a very long time. I personally believe that a lot of veteran quarterbacks should take slight pay cuts to help the team because I think it benefits them also in the long term. However, when it's your first big contract, I don't think you have any obligation to take a little bit less. I think guys like Brees and Brady should.
Well, I disagree with you.
No?
I disagree.
Do you think Mahomes should take a little bit of a deal?
I think, look, a lot of it is not just, it's not, we all look at the raw numbers to it, okay?
Yeah.
When it's done, how it's done, right? I don't know offhand what the Chiefs' salary numbers are this year, but you can bake it into, if the extension doesn't go into effect to the following year, you can then, if they have money left over in this year, you can plant it there.
Yeah.
In 2019, before the 18th. You can do it in 2020, before that. So the idea is like, look, I don't need to, one, how much money can you possibly spend? It's not going to be his last contract.
No.
I mean, if Tom Brady is the model, like now all of a sudden we have to factor in, there's a chance all of these quarterbacks are going to be playing the good ones till they're 40 years old. So that means Tom Brady, who's made $240 million on his contract, right? And everything going up. Mahomes has a chance to make $500, $600 million during the life of his career if it lasts as long. And there's no reason to think it won't be successful, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to take top dollar. It's more about the structure, but I also think it's smart. Look, the last 10 years, the guy with the number one salary cap hit have all been quarterbacks. 8 of those 10 quarterbacks have not made the playoffs during that year. So it is about, you're going to have to Sammy Watkins eventually be up, or do you want to replace Sammy Watkins? I mean, one of the reasons they were able to support him and give him the best weapons in football
was on a rookie deal.
He was on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
So I think this is really smart. I don't necessarily know if it hurts the bottom line, but the timing of the deal, how it coincides with the new CBA, when he gets what money, I do think that can be done in a team-friendly way, which allows the Chiefs to continue to put weapons around him.
And finally, the Lakers added a guard to their roster after being rumored to trade or sign every available player for the last 3 months. Veteran guard Dion Waiters is a Laker. Waiters fresh off his THC gummy overdose with the Heat and then was traded to the Grizzlies and then released.
May who among us?
Waiters, last year with the Heat, 12 a game, shot almost 38% from three. The Lakers have a very front court dominant roster. They could certainly use some help at guard.
Yeah.
Do you think Waiters can provide them anything useful in the playoffs?
Yes, because he can go on a heater. He can go on a heater and get you 10 points off the bench in a hurry. Offense goes stale. This is what they don't have. They actually wanted like a Waiters and a Darren Collins. They want a starting guard, and they want a backup guard who can be a combo who's a bucket getter, and that's what Waiters is. And they're just going to have to deal with Caruso and Rondo and LeBron playing and Avery Bradley playing the point. So, yes, I think this is a really good, smart signing. And, you jettison a shooter that doesn't really fit for a Dion Waiters who not only knows and is confident can get buckets, but he understands the LeBron thing and how that works. That's John Goulet with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
All right, let's bring him in. He's Chris Broussard. He's joining us, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. CB, last week, was it last week we were in New York? Or was that the week before? I
2
seriously.
weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Was it?
Roughly. Because I know we did the LeBron Giannis MVP, so maybe it wasn't that long ago. Maybe a week and a half ago.
Was it last week? That was 2 weeks ago? It was two.
When
I
we
think it was
co-hosted
2 weeks
FTF.
ago. It was 2 weeks ago. First things first, we got a chance to guest host for those guys that were on vacation.
A lot of fun.
And during that time, you and I both discussed the Clippers and where they were. And I feel like the plan that they've had is coming together. It's like, oh. Is that what you saw last night?
Yeah, I saw the best team in the league because you're with me on picking them to win it, right?
Yes.
Win the West for sure.
Look, I think it's them and the Lakers. I think it's going to be super interesting.
Yes.
But what I saw last night appears like they've all told me, hey, we're going to be really good March, April, and June, May and June, and it looks like they're accurate.
The fact that they have such great chemistry on the court for a team that hasn't really practiced that much together with their full complement of players,
right,
or played many games together, I think it's incredible because, look, I know they go ISO a lot because they have a lot of ISO players, but the ball moves. There's nobody dominating the basketball. Nobody's not getting their touches. Everybody touches it enough to be in rhythm. Guys like Jermichael Green and all these guys, they get their looks as well. They look tremendous. I thought it's interesting with Houston. Before Houston traded Clint Capella and went small, I thought they had a better chance of beating the Clippers than the Lakers, even though I didn't think they'd beat either LA team. Now, after the trade, and this was even before last night, I felt they have a better chance of upsetting the Lakers. But the Clippers can play small better than the Rockets because offensively they can shoot just as well, and defensively they're better.
Well, the other thing is, and it's interesting, my brother was actually just calling me, apparently not listening or watching the show. Thanks, Greg. But I remember my brother, he recruited Kawhi, and he couldn't get his, at that time, he was in the Pac-12 at a different school. Now he's at Oregon State. Couldn't get his head coach to buy into Kawhi because Kawhi was a center in high school. And he was a power forward and it was like, hey, he's a 6'5", 6'6" center. Like, that's hard to get. That's why none of the Pac-12 schools offered him.
Right. And
he's evolved into this. But the idea is, for our entire lifetime, until the last 5 years, every player that's 6'5", 6'6" has had to play down a position, right? You get to the pros, and now you got to be a two guard or a three, which you've never done before. So it actually plays into Kawhi's favor because he's a great low post player, offensively, defensively, and then he's become an incredibly efficient wing scorer as well. And I want to bring up the LeBron thing. LeBron says MVPs, regular season MVPs have never mattered. They've really never mattered to Kawhi. Like, he literally does not care. Could he average 35? Yes. Could he play more minutes? Yes. That ain't how he is, who he is, and I think that really helps in the makeup of this team.
You are absolutely correct. He clearly doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
He is giving up his opportunity to win regular season awards.
Yes.
Last year, some people might disagree with this, I had him third team All-NBA because he missed so many games. Now, he clearly was good enough to be second team, last year. But I said, you know what? He's missed too many games. I can't remember. I think it was Paul George and maybe LeBron were on second team. Even though LeBron missed games, he got hurt. Kawhi was just choosing to sit out games. But you're right. And I think we've seen reports, Doug, about the chemistry issues with the Clippers, or, not that they're going to destroy the season, but that they're there. Where those stem from, I believe, is that last year, not only on the team, but throughout that entire organization, it was every game, every possession counts. And even within that organization, they got a great front office. They leave no stone unturned. It's like every little detail matters to us. They went out and hired Lee Jenkins from Sports Illustrated to help them, to relate to players and help them recruit guys and investigate guys. So every detail mattered. Now you bring in Paul George and mainly Kawhi Leonard, two superstars who are like, come on, man, first few months don't even really matter. I'm not playing every game. We'll be ready late in the season and come May and June. And that's where, even with Doc, when Doc had the big three in Boston, they started out like gangbusters because he was like, every game matters. That's where the adjustment has been to these superstars who feel a different way. But now as the other guys, the guys who might be skeptical, see a game like last night, now they're, okay, I see it.
And I think they put the league on notice a little bit as well. They did. Right? What about the Rockets? How disheartening could it be to them? They've been playing so well. And you could say, hey, it's one game where they're 7 of 42 from three, but they didn't really feel competitive. And you're losing seemingly the same way at home against the Clippers now, who, again, like, they couldn't beat the Warriors when the Warriors were the best team. Now they can't beat the Clippers when the Clippers are the best team. Do you believe that last night's was any more disheartening than any other loss?
Yeah, it's not one game. I mean, they lost to a much better team, and everybody can talk about, well, they missed 23s in a row. Anybody can do that or get cold. There's Doug, you played at a high level. There's a reason they missed a lot of those threes, even the open ones, because the Clippers were so aggressive, so long, so fast to the ball, to the point they could contest some of the threes, but yet get back and stop them from driving at the same time, that even when you were open, you were thinking about it. You know how it is, like, you had to shoot it just a tad bit quicker than you do in other games. And so that's why they missed so many threes. So, look, I think the Rockets are battling Boston for the fourth best team in the NBA. So I really think they are a very good team. I think they improved with the trade to go small, but they're just not good enough to win a championship. And from Daryl Morey to Mike D'Antoni to James Harden and Russell Westbrook, That's what they need. Being relevant is not what it's about. It's about a championship. They're not good enough.
I also thought the Clippers using Zubac and having Zubac have such a big game was one, brilliant. Two, it shows his athleticism.
Right, for a big man, he's
right,
athletic.
how they can zig when everybody else is zagging. And it is a little salt in the wound of the Lakers, who Magic Johnson just gave him away in like a laughable trade.
And Lou, don't forget Lou used to be a Laker.
And yes,
they just tried to bring in Deion Waiters to be Lou.
Yeah, there's a lot to it that felt good for the Clippers and not for everyone else. Last night. All right, speaking of the Lakers, Bucks tonight. Where are we on the MVP discussion? How big a game is this for the Lakers? We'll get to that upcoming next with Chris Broussard. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be making us part of your day, thanks so much. So tonight at Staples, and by the way, Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, weekdays 7 to 10 Eastern Time, 4 to 7 Pacific, The Odd Couple on Fox Sports Radio. This is a quick aside. Rob Parker, who went to Antarctica so he could visit the last continent to check kind of that box.
Yes.
He's getting back, or he's back today from the Golden Girls cruise.
Yes.
And
Believe
he
it or not.
thought he would have a better time than he did.
I don't know that he's going to admit that he didn't have a great time, but looking at his social media, the Instagram, the Twitter, it just didn't look that fun to me. And it didn't look like what Rob was expecting.
What was he expecting?
He was expecting many younger people to be on the crew, which I kept ripping him like, what? No, it's going to be all Golden Girls, just like the show. And I think that's what it was.
Yes. Rob's not young, and he was the springest spring chicken.
Yes.
Right?
Now he'll try to save face and say he had a good time. He relaxed, but come on.
That is an odd.
It's tough when you go on a vacation for a week.
Yes.
And within the first 4 hours you realize,
Well, if you've ever done the couples vacation, you go on like, hey, let's all go on a trip together. You go on a trip together, like, oh my God, I don't like them that much. It was so much better when we could come home from their house after letting the kids play in the yard. Like that I like them a lot better there. Now we're on their schedule. He's always late.
It's
she's always
be the perfect
drunk.
couple, right?
Oh,
you got to find that perfect couple that matches up.
You want to end a relationship with another couple? Go on a vacation with them. That's a really good way to do so. Chris Broussard joins us. Lakers, Bucks tonight. Who's the game bigger for?
I think it's bigger for the Lakers. The Bucks obviously, they beat the Lakers the first time and actually pummeled them. And I know they only won by 7, but they were up 19. Yeah, 19 in the first half. So I think the Lakers are 0-3 against the Clippers and the Bucks. And let's face it, I mean, if you want to give Boston some type of slim chance of winning it all, there's really 3 championship contenders this year: the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks. And the Lakers haven't beat any of them. So I think they need for themselves.
Well, didn't they beat the Celtics? They win that game?
The Celtics, but I'm saying.
Right, but even when they beat the Celtics, Kemba didn't play, right? And that was an overtime game without Kemba Walker.
So, yeah, I think the Lakers understand they need to get one of these games, and I think they'll get the Bucks game. I think they'll lose to the Clippers. I think they'll beat the Clippers in the last game when they play in April.
LeBron says he's never been motivated by the MVP. That's what he said.
Did you ever play a Little League season when you didn't want to make the All-Star team?
Never.
Ever play when you didn't want to make All-Conference?
Listen.
He's a human being.
I have a friend, and I'll give him a shout out. His name's Clay McKnight. His dad's legendary coach at Mater Dei High School, right? And so Clay runs these tournaments, these shootouts every weekend in Orange County. We play in them. My AU program, we play in them.
Right.
And he does a great thing. Every game gets an MVP. And I'm telling you, like, my kid, I could dog cuss my kid, make him run sprints, could tell him how bad. If he gets that MVP shirt at the end of the game, like, the rest of the day is smooth sailing. Everybody wants to be the. Why would he lie to us?
Well, he said the right thing. I'm gonna give you why I believe. LeBron was the best player in the world for what, a decade roughly. And he's
in the discussion. We're forgetting. We forget Tim Duncan.
I don't, but you do. I know you.
No. We forget. It's like Kobe Bryant didn't exist until all of a sudden he tragically dies.
Was he better than LeBron though?
I can't. We go back individual years. Like LeBron was one of the best. He's been, since he's gotten to the league, probably after year 3, he's been one of the 2 or 3, 5 best players in the league.
But among, and I know I've seen some of your lists, so you may not have him as high as some. But among a lot of people, maybe even most people, right? We say best player in the world for a decade, certainly in his mind. And if you take the name of the award literally, most valuable player, I mean, clearly he's been the most valuable player to his team for many years.
Yes.
And yet, years like that, he didn't win the award.
And so we're led to believe that that didn't motivate him?
No, I think what he's saying is that, look, years I was the best player in the world. I was the most valuable player. I didn't win it. Why should I focus on it? Why should I put it out there that I'm focused on it and want it when even if I deserve it, there's a good chance I won't win it? So I think
Jordan had that too, right? It's the Jordan fatigue, the LeBron fatigue of voting for him. We give it to other guys.
And I don't even think – I think with LeBron it wasn't always fatigue. But I just think that it's smart on LeBron's part to say, look, I'm not focused on this because if I don't win it and it looks like Giannis is the front runner, then it just looks bad if I'm really focused on it.
Have you come closer to my side in terms of his value?
I just think Giannis is so far clearly the MVP.
If you put the
storyline is better for LeBron.
The storyline, but I would also say
he's having a great year.
We only got 30 seconds, so I'm kind of pinchy on this thing. But my argument would be, I don't think another player could do what LeBron's doing. I do think other players could do what Giannis is doing if they're put into that system instead of Giannis.
If Kawhi was on the Lakers, they wouldn't be as good?
No.
I think they would.
Okay.
I think they play differently.
If Ben Simmons was on,
it wouldn't be as centered around Kawhi.
If Ben Simmons was on the Bucks, would they be as good?
No. He's still not shooting. Giannis at least shoots it occasionally.
He doesn't make it that much, except when he plays the Lakers. Chris Broussard, check out The Odd Couple, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, with the crazy uncle Rob Parker every day on Fox Sports Radio. I have the best landing spot for Tom Brady. We will land that plane. Upcoming next. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on
Izzo to you, month of Izzo. We got lots of hoops on Fox Sports 1 with the Big Ten and Pac-12, and then the Big East tournament from the Garden, which is it is a magical, magical place when the Big East plays next week. You'll see it right here live on Fox Sports 1. Who's your favorite filmmaker from your childhood? I have 3 kids. One of my daughters has a film class. And I love, who doesn't love movies, especially guys, we quote movie lines. And I saw that she brought home some dialogue from one of my all-time favorites, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, full disclosure, I actually threw on Ferris Bueller's Day Off for my kids. It was reasonably appropriate for the girls. My son's 10, whatever, we figured it out. A lot of the stuff is over his head anyway. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off is made by John Hughes. John Hughes, who's since, of course, passed away, is one of the great filmmakers of my childhood, my young adulthood, really my lifetime. Like, I wasn't really of the 16 Candles. That didn't totally hit at the right. That was my sister's favorite movie, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club. There's also Beethoven, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck. You're like, man, he made all of those. And I think this was from 16 Candles, right? Do you guys remember 16 Candles? 16 Candles. Anthony Michael Hall was the king of, like, the dweebs, right? And the hottest girl in school, he's driving around in I think her parents' Rolls Royce late at night. He's ultimately has the headgear on. Raise your hand if you had headgear. I did have headgear. Didn't have to wear it during the day, thank you, but I had to wear it at night. And she passes out. And then on his shoulder, one shoulder, and we remember this from the Warner Brothers cartoons, there was the angel and there was the devil, right? And the angel said something nice, and the devil did the opposite. That was my favorite part of those the cartoons when you had the Tom and Jerry, right? Tom would have the angel telling him one thing and the devil telling him something else. I thought we could do that with Tom Brady in terms of finding the right home for number 12, TB12, to play football next year. So, John Goulet, I'll play both the angel and the devil for what we
Fun
have.
For you.
8 teams?
8 teams we're going to look at.
Okay. Go ahead.
Let's start with the angel. What would they say about staying with the Patriots?
With the Patriots. There's no place like home. It's where the heart is. It's where 6 championships are. You and Bill and the Patriots are married. This is until death, football death do you part. It's a marriage that should and will go the distance.
What would the devil say?
He doesn't respect you. He doesn't like you. You're just a part. You're just a cog in the machine. You're just a pawn on Bill Belichick's chessboard. You don't mean anything to them. You're not from New England, right? You're only there because they took you in the 6th round, and they still treat you like you're a 6th rounder. Like you should just be happy to be there.
What would the angel say about joining the 49ers?
Well, any child of the 80s, as me and Tom Brady are, grew up idolizing Joe Montana. And Joe Montana is seen as the GOAT quarterback, even though he's too short in terms of Super Bowl rings. Joe Montana left and had to go to Kansas City. What if Tom Brady got his dream scenario, got to play out his dreams as the Niners quarterback, and like his idol growing up, Joe Montana won his 7th Super Bowl ring. Better players, better talent, better organization, and truly a hometown team.
And what would the devil say about the 49ers?
So if you can't beat them, you got to join them, right? You don't go and play for the Niners. That's what O.J. Simpson did at the end of his career. Do you want to be tied to O.J. Simpson? Of course not. Of course not. Plus, Kyle Shanahan gets so much credit. He's a great play caller. He's a great play caller. You want to call plays too, Tommy, don't you? Well, you're not gonna with Kyle Shanahan, the great play caller. It's not his fault. Plus, you're filling in for your backup. Don't see that happen.
What would the angel say about Tom Brady joining the Colts?
Tom, haven't you ever wanted a clean pocket? Just some road raiders in front of you? Time to sit up there with your great hair and your clear skin. Might be Botoxed. Does it really matter? It looks really good. Your sparkly white teeth. Look over the defense. Find open targets because you have time. Playing indoors instead of that mess you played in New England. Right? The best, perfect conditions. Right? And, oh yeah, by the way, they lost Andrew Luck because they couldn't protect him, so now they've gone above and beyond anything possible in terms of surrounding him with talent to block for him. Haven't you ever wanted to stand tall in that in that pocket, Tom? Now's your chance.
What would the devil say about joining the Colts?
Tom, the Colts, the team you guys used to laugh about, you used to punk, used to knock off their timing routes. Tom, the Colts are synonymous with Peyton Manning. They are Peyton Manning's team. Do you want to eat Peyton Manning's leftovers? Is that what you want to do? You want to go into Peyton Manning's refrigerator and eat his leftovers? No, Tom. We don't eat leftovers. We eat avocado ice cream.
All right, this is an odd one. What would the Angels say about joining the Raiders?
Tommy, Angel here. It's Vegas, right? Hey, baby, it's Vegas. It's new, it's fresh. You got a new stadium. We'll open the roof, we'll close the roof, whatever you want. It's like any Vegas. This is Sammy Davis Jr. used to play once a week here. He'd sell out at the Pumps, right? or at the Stardust or the Dunes. You guys remember the Dunes? My grandpa used to stay at the Dunes. Sorry, that's a quick aside. Anyway, Tom, Giselle Lovett here, right? This is where stars come to retire. You play golf. It's great for you. Had great skin for your beautiful family. Live out of Red Rocks. Huge place. Come in, play once a week. Get the Raiders back. Commitment to excellence, Tom. Commitment to excellence.
And what would the Devil say about his favorite team, the Raiders?
Excellence? The Raiders have been in the playoffs once in 17 years. The Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, can change where they're from, but they still stink. They've stunk for 17 years. Commitment to excellence? More like commitment to excrement. That's what they've put out there. The best thing they ever did was trade other guys away so they didn't have to be a part of that sinking pirate ship. Plus, Tom, you're going to fear for your life if you ever want to slap high fives with anybody in that new black hole. Right? Lots of shivs coming out of the black hole.
What would the Angels say about Tom Brady thinking about joining the Chargers?
Tom, see that sky? It's powder blue. It's going to be powder blue every day. You take the field, the brand new stadium, and you will be responsible for every seat sold because nobody buys Charger tickets, Tom, but they will because of you. And we got the best uniforms in football. And think of the legends that have played. Dan Fouts, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers. They're legends, and they haven't actually won anything. Imagine if we bring a quarterback who actually wins games to the Chargers. It could be a match made in heaven.
And what would the Devil say about joining the Chargers?
You're going to join the Chargers? They're the 7th most interesting pro football team in Los Angeles. People like the Raiders. Then they like the Niners. Then maybe the Cowboys. Then the Rams. Then the Steelers. Then the Packers. Then maybe you. Chiefs probably more popular, right? Go ahead. Go from New England, where you own all of New England, to L.A., where nobody likes you. And in San Diego, they don't want you anymore. Oh, yeah, by the way, that pocket that you like, it always collapses because the Chargers forever search for offensive line help.
What would the Angels say about Tom Brady thinking about joining the Titans?
Tom, you would make every Clay Travis dream come true. That's all I got.
Okay, what would the Devil say then?
The Titans? Come on, man. It's like a made-up name. Tennessee Titans, it's named after a Nissan pickup truck, right? Which nobody even knows that they make Nissans in Tennessee. They do make Nissans in Tennessee. Nobody even knows that it's tax-free, right? Because it's in the middle of landlocked states, right? They go to lakes there. Lakes? Really? Nashville. Country music? Come on, man. Really? You're going to go from Boston or turn down L.A. or Vegas for Nashville? You're going to boot, scoot, boogie? Come on, Tom. Who are we kidding here? You're from California. You have a place in Greenwich. You've lived in Boston. You're not going to Nashville. People do that and go country. Okay, but with the exception of Darius Rucker, it doesn't work out for most stars.
What would the Angels say about Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You know, Tom, no Super Bowl team has ever played a home game. That could all change with you. Plus, you got Bruce Arians. He's a quarterback whisperer. Unfortunately, he must have whispered to Jameis Winston, throw it to the other team, because that's what he did all of last year. Quarterback whisperer. Tom, this is perfect. They have weapons. It's Florida. Again, no state income tax. Home team for the Super Bowl. You don't even have to travel for the Super Bowl. Plus that division, Atlanta, come on, they stink. Carolina, reboot. And we know that New Orleans is going to find a way to lose a playoff game that they should rightfully win.
What would the Devil say?
It's Tampa. I mean, one, look at that uniform on you. Secondly, it's Tampa. They throw the ball deep downfield in Tampa. You used to do that like 15 years ago when you had Randy Moss. You dink and dunk now. That's not who you are. Plus, it's Tampa. It's like the 5th most known city in the state of Florida. Right? It's on the wrong body of water. So it's wannabe Miami and Miami's wannabe LA. That's what I got for you.
Last one. What would the Angels say about Tom Brady becoming a Cowboy?
Tommy. Jerry here. America's team. America's quarterback. Haven't won 25 years. The Patriots don't feel like they've lost in 25 years. You want to be something special? You want to elevate yourself, elevate your brand? Join the Dallas Cowboys. We'll pay Dak Prescott, who can't even beat any good teams, pay him $35 million a year. Why wouldn't we pay you 30? Maybe 35. Makes sense.
And what about the Devils side to joining the Cowboys?
Tom, the Eagles were throwing out practice squad guys at wide receiver, and the Cowboys still couldn't beat them. We know how this ends. No matter what Jerry says, he's going to get involved, and he's going to ruin it. Plus, you can't combine powers like this. It's like with the Avengers, right? When you have all the stones, you just can't have all those stones in one hand. Otherwise, no mere mortal can survive. And that's the angel and the devil.
For the devil!
The Devils! The Devils! The Devils. With TrueCar, shoppers save on average over $3,500 off MSRP. See what other people pay for the vehicle you want with the new TrueCar. Buy smarter, drive happier. This team proved last night they are who we thought they were. And guess who didn't let them off the hook? That's next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Dear Young Rocker is more than just a podcast about music. It's a memoir of how it feels to survive high school when you don't fit in and the freeing feeling of picking up a guitar for the first time. It's also advice for anyone who is or was young and has ever felt weird or alone. One Dear Young Rocker fan wrote to say, I truly wish I could teleport back to 2000 and give my younger self this podcast and write, your cellulite is just as punk as Johnny Ramone's weird face on my wall. Another said, thank you for sharing your story and letting my daughter know she's not alone and that it will all be okay. The AV Club's Podmas says about DYR, this podcast exploring the relationship between gender, rage, and the power of music is like an unearthed time capsule containing a forgotten strain of teendom. Dear Young Rocker is written and narrated by me, Chelsea Urson, executive produced by Jake Brennan, and comes to you from Double Elvis Productions. Listen to Dear Young Rocker on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tomorrow, the groundbreaking inaugural season of the XFL continues as the New York Guardians face off with the Dallas Renegades at 5 Eastern on Fox and streaming on the Fox Sports app. And don't forget, before the XFL games that kick off this weekend, make sure you download the Fox Sports Super 6 app and play for free for a chance to win up to $10,000.
Shouldn't the Dallas Renegades do the Renegade every time they score a touchdown? Renegade's a TikTok dance. That line was provided to me by my children who are big on TikTok. I know where the TikTok building is, but I am not that good on TikTok. I can't remember all the moves to the dances. Anyway, I got my XFL pen here. It always comes in handy. Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is The Herd. Last night, interesting night in the NBA. We'll get to Steph Curry a little bit later on in the show. I feel like, actually, Goulet, you understand this better than anybody. I use this in speeches, like corporate speeches, and to kids as well. How would you describe a nor'easter, a wicked nor'easter?
I would say it's a heavy snowstorm with a lot of wind. Right?
I don't know if that's it's an accurate depiction.
Yeah.
I don't know if that tells the story of what makes a nor'easter any different than a normal winter storm, right? A nor'easter is almost like the perfect storm, right? That's what it is. So, and we don't have the map in front of us, but if you have like an Alberta Clipper. And I bring up Goulet because we both used to live in the state of Connecticut. He's actually from one of the towns I lived in, Canton, Connecticut. Not sure if you're aware. Warriors boys and girls basketball team both doing well in the state playoffs. Not sure if you're aware.
I was not aware.
You laid down
when I was on the team.
You laid down the foundation. That's what you did. You were a foundational player. That's what you were. Think of a great Clipper of 10 years ago, and that's essentially who you are to the Canton Warriors. Anyway, it's like the perfect storm is what a nor'easter is. You have an Alberta Clipper, which is a cold front coming off of Canada. That makes it cold. You got another cold front coming off the continental United States, and then you have a high pressure system sitting off the coast of New England. So when you live in New England, if you get 5 or 6 inches, which is a snowstorm anywhere else, that's called a dusting. When the snowstorm gets stuck, that's a nor'easter because there's the high pressure system, and it drops like 30, 35, 40 inches, right? It's in many ways the perfect storm. I'll tell you why I think I think the Warriors have a chance to be back. We'll get to that a little later on in the show. But I was watching last night, and it's not because Greg Toohey is like the only Rockets fan, defender in the history of national sports radio and producers here on the Herd. It feels that way. I mean, heck, if asked, he would bang trash cans for the Astros this year if it would help them win more games. But I was thinking about Toohey. I'm watching the Rockets last night, and I have been a defender of what they're trying to do. Like, they're forever flawed. They just are. Everyone has flaws. What's the cliche? There are no perfect people. There are no perfect teams. They all have flaws. And the flaw to this Rockets team starts with an owner who didn't hire the GM, who didn't hire the coach, who paid over $2 billion for a team, and he wants to win, and he wants to win now. And I don't know if ultimately that's even possible, let alone you are who your best player is. And if your best player is James Harden, that means you're immensely talented offensively. Like, James Harden is one of the greatest offensive players in the history of the sport. But he doesn't care about defense. He's not good at defense, and he plays for a coach who is as good offensively as anyone in the history of the sport, but is seen as a terrible defensive coach and playoff coach. So who your best player is, who your head coach is, that's who you are. So you're kind of moving deck chairs around the Titanic anyway. But I like this small ball thing. It's like it's going to get the most you can get out of Russell Westbrook. And if you know anything about Russell Westbrook's contract, that is, I don't want to say anybody's contract is untradeable, because Joe Johnson made $30 million a year when everybody else was making like 15 or 20. And Joe Johnson had the worst contract in the sport, and he was traded out once, but twice. Okay, so there are no truly untradeable deals. But I would say that Russell Westbrook is as close to untradeable as anybody. So if you got Westbrook and you got Harden, what's the best we can do? Let's just commit to small ball. I mentioned that Goulet and I both came from that place in Connecticut a long time ago. I was working on a Monday night. I used to do an overnight show called Game Night. And after a Monday night football game, and I don't know if you remember the two teams, it was the Arizona Cardinals against the Chicago Bears. Did I get it right? Like, I didn't even look this up because I remember it so vividly. I believe it was the Arizona Cardinals against the Chicago Bears. This, I think, was the Bears team that went to the Super Bowl and lost. That was Rex Grossman is our quarterback. All right, you guys remember that? Okay, so it's Monday Night Football. The game was played in Arizona. Denny Green, the late, great Denny Green, was the coach of the Vikings first, then the Arizona Cardinals. Denny Green, his team had him, and they lost, even though they exposed the Bears for who they were. This is the famous Denny Green line.
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
And then he bangs the podium, right? Remember that? That's like an all-timer. They are who we thought they were. That's the Rockets. That's the Rockets. You know, they look like they want to play hard defensively, but they're still giving up layups. They're more committed to getting to the rim with Russell Westbrook, but they still live by and die by the three. If you have an active, athletic big man like Zubac, he can score at will. 17 and 12 for Zubac last night. The only difference between the Arizona Cardinals in 2006 on Monday Night Football and the LA Clippers last night was the Clippers did not let him off the hook. The Rockets are exactly who we thought they were. Right? Like, Russell Westbrook still can't shoot threes. In a big spot, he's still going to try and do it himself. That's what he does. That's what he did in Oklahoma City. That's what he's going to do in Houston. In a tough physical game, if James Harden can't get to the free throw line, like he can't sometimes in the playoffs, he will take bad shots. He will miss challenge shots. You can get physical with him. And when you have push comes to shove, you have to make him guard. He wants no part of it. And Mike D'Antoni's team, at the end of the day, they don't really want to play defense. They fake it and haven't made it because of it. In the words of Denny Green, the Rockets are who we thought they were. The Clippers did not let them off the hook. Let's get to John Goulet with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
John,
Sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
John,
Only pay for what you need.
Canton, Connecticut. Is there the T in the Canton? Because hit in New Britain, there's no T. Is it Canton, Connecticut, or Canton, Connecticut?
It usually comes out Canton.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Usually
it's
a soft
little bit more, a little bit more refined though up there.
So Dak Prescott's lack of an extension with the Cowboys has kind of overshadowed another star player of theirs not having a contract and not being there as of March 18th. Their Pro Bowl wide receiver, Amari Cooper.
Yep.
He made it pretty clear on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, though, he wants to remain with the Cowboys.
I love being a Dallas Cowboy. I love everything about it. I was just thinking about that today. I think about it almost every day, really. Just the aura of being a Dallas Cowboy. I mean, you can't beat it. So I want to be a Dallas Cowboy for life.
Did not know that was his voice. Did not know.
There's a little Michael Jackson in there.
Well, it's just there's like surprising voices, right? Like Pat Mahomes' kind of surprising voice sounds like Kermit the Frog. Mike Tyson, kind of surprising voice. That's a surprising voice. Not a bad voice, right? It was soothing. It was nice. I didn't think Michael Jackson. I thought that kind of sounded like Isaiah. Do you remember Isaiah Thomas? The current Isaiah Thomas. The
Pistons.
Pistons Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
That type of. Inflection in his voice.
So, besides having a nice voice,
yes,
he's also a very good receiver
who
really improved Dak Prescott. Dak was really struggling before they traded for him. He is the perfect receiver for someone like Dak who needs to see you get open before he'll throw you the ball. And Amari is very good at getting open. But I don't know that they can afford to keep both of them, especially if they give Dak what he wants, or even if they franchise Dak, because that means you can't manipulate that cap money. Should these two players work together in order to both remain Cowboys, or are they both just looking for the most money they can each get individually?
Yes and yes, right? How can we both make a bunch of money and stay with the Cowboys and stay together? This is where Ezekiel Elliott basically cut in line.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, everybody was going to get paid, but it was like, all right, we're going to do it in order. And then something happened out of order where Zeke's like, I don't want to wait in line. I want my money and I want it now. And I think that screwed him up. I would guess that's one of the reasons for the delay is, and I do think that you can go to Dak and go like, hey, look, dude, here's the deal. You like Amari? You know, you want Amari. Sorry, this is what you're going to have to do. You know, there's going to have to be some cuts somewhere.
Right.
You have a budget. That's what salary cap is. It's a budget. It's no different than when you're redoing a house. Man, I really want marble countertops. Okay. Then your vanities can't be custom made, right? You're going to have to go down to, to one of the hardware stores and get pre-made vanities if you want. That's the conversation with Dak. Hey, we want you to be our quarterback. We're willing to pay you over $30 million. But how much over $30 million depends on how much you like looking out there and seeing Amari Cooper.
It's like people on those house hunting shows who go, I want 5 bedrooms, and I want a big yard, and I want a pool, and I want a new kitchen, but I want to pay $200,000 less than that's worth.
Okay, so you have to live further and further from town.
Right. So one of the few Boston athletes as beloved as Tom Brady is David Ortiz, and he was pretty clear in what he wanted to see happen with Brady's potential free agency. According to the Boston Globe's Ben Volen, he had 3 words of advice for the Patriots. Pay the man. Tom Brady, I think, has been doing a pretty masterful job of kind of controlling the narrative around this. A lot of things leak very conveniently that benefit, I think, his contract negotiations.
Without him saying a word.
Correct. Or with him, maybe with people misinterpreting what he did say at a basketball game or happening to be FaceTiming with a coach of another team, one on camera. Anyway, I think this is exactly what Brady wants, though, right? A beloved athlete speaking as a fan of... He's speaking like, right? Ortiz is acting like a Patriots fan. I just pay Brady. Just bring him back. Isn't this exactly what his team is trying to have happen?
Yes.
His PR team, not his actual
Yes,
NFL
to win
team.
public support, right? To win the room, if you will. And like, see, everybody thinks you should pay me. You know, there's the dollars and cents to how do you make it work. Same thing. Like, you want wide receivers? Cool. Kind of need some of that money, Tommy. Like, all right, but I mean, I haven't been taking top dollar for a long time. Like, we also need to chill a little bit with Brady has always taken less. Like, he's always made a very good amount of money and hasn't put himself in terms of top dollar, but they found creative ways to pay him. He's made over $230 million in salary alone during his long and illustrious career. Some of it is kind of the clever way in which they do the salary cap more than anything. That's John Goulet with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Who can give us a better sense on the Cowboys than Orlando Scandrick, of course, 12 seasons in the NFL. He was a fifth-round pick of the Cowboys, played for them for 10 seasons, joins us now in the Herd. What up, man? Also played in like one of the craziest Fiesta Bowls against Oklahoma. Remember that one?
Yeah, I did.
That was. I actually bring up that game and show it to my kid as this is one of the craziest games ever. All right, let me start with Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
If you were on Team Brady, how would you evaluate your options?
I think two things are happening here. I think he's going to test the market. I think he's also waiting to see if the CBA gets extended or if they reach a new agreement, which would push salaries kind of through the roof. Revenue is going to increase, and obviously the salary cap is going to increase significantly. And I think ultimately he stays in New England. Yeah,
the CBA thing is interesting because I think, like, if I try to do a segment on the CBA, I don't think fans really care. What they care about is like, hey, is my guy going to play for my team? We're going to go out and sign some guys. But how much does it actually matter in terms of like dollars and cents? What do we if the new CBA is signed? How much more money is there to spend?
A lot. From the projections that I've seen, the salary cap, including benefits and everything for 2020, would be somewhere near $240 million.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, great. Those numbers are crazy.
Crazy, the spike, and that's why everybody's just delaying. Based upon your guys you talked to, do you think it passes? Because it's designed more for the rank and file than for the stars.
I have no idea. If it's a good deal, I think it passes. I think there's more of rank and you called it rank and
file.
It's more rank and file guy than there is stars. I think also everybody wants a good deal because this is going to be a pretty long deal. So, if it's a good deal, I think it passes. Who knows, though?
It's like the whole idea of paying minimum wage people $15, right? It's like, oh, you can get anything because if you have more people making minimum wage, they're going to vote for something that pays them more as opposed to whether or not it hurts the very upper echelon. And the high earners are just in terms of a numbers game. There's 5 guys on the team that are making upwards of $10 million. Mm-hmm. There's a much bigger depth of people that are making minimum wage, NFL minimum wage, and you increase from $400,000 to $500,000. Like that's a massive increase.
I think the increase would be from $400,000 for a rookie minimum, and this year it would be $610,000, I believe. I
mean, it's insane. It's the how quickly can I sign? How quickly can I get the ink to dry? All right, let's talk about one of your former teams, the Cowboys, the one you're most synonymous with. They have Zeke already signed. Amari needs to be signed. They want to keep Dak. Dak's their quarterback. You can only franchise tag one, Dak or Amari. Byron Jones is probably out because they couldn't afford to keep him. What do you do if you're the Cowboys?
If I'm the Cowboys, I try and keep them all, obviously, but that's not a realistic. Now I'm living in a fantasy world. But I got to figure out a way to get my quarterback under contract and his number one receiver, the guy that brings him a sense of comfort, the guy that has allowed him to elevate his game and continue to improve. I kind of seen a little bit of regression in Dak before he had the true number one receiver. He never really clicked with Dez, which was they didn't have a lot of time together because Dez missed some time when he was there. He didn't have a number one receiver after that, and now he's got this guy that's this new, young, this guy that can take the top off the defense. He's extremely fast. He's a hard worker. He commands double teams, and he just makes it easier on everybody else.
What happened with him against Philadelphia late in the year where he's on the sideline? But some of it was like he wasn't playing great. Why wasn't like Amari Cooper, who when he got to the Cowboys, coming from the Raiders, he blew up, like as you point out, completely changed their offense. But he seemed to stagnate a little bit this year. What happened?
I think he was just banged up. When I was there in Philadelphia and we played him that first game, he was Amari Cooper. He was everything that we all see on Sundays. And I think later in the season, he was just banged up and, the wear and tear of the season, and he had some nagging injuries. But I think he's everything that you want in a number one receiver.
All right, I don't know if you saw the story. Orlando Scandrick, longtime defensive back in the National Football League. Comes from a fifth-round draft pick and plays 12 spectacular years in the league. Join us here on Fox Sports 1 in the Herd. I'm Doug Gottlieb filling in for Colin. So Pat Mahomes admitted that he couldn't read an NFL defense until midway through last season. Do you buy that?
NFL defenses are complex, but when you got 4 people going out in routes and all you need to know if it's middle open, middle close, he got pretty good at that. And he's only going to get better if he's just now being able to read defenses.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, imagine what you can do when you actually know what you're doing. But that's the type of talent he has.
What he could read is middle open and middle close, and he came from that Texas Tech air raid style offense, and Andy Reid has done a great job at mixing and implementing that into his offense in Kansas City and making things as simple and as natural to him as he can. And, it's just showed.
Is he the best? I mean, have you ever seen anyone as talented as that guy?
Is he the best quarterback that's ever played all time?
No, I mean, in terms of talent. I mean, look, Brady obviously has accomplished more. Rodgers done it for longer, right? But in terms of the skill set of things that he does, you've seen a lot, right? You play in a decade, you play in the league, you played at the level you played at, you've seen a lot. Where is he in these slingers of football?
He's up there, but I've got a chance to see Kurt Warner. I've gotten a chance to see Brett Favre. I've gotten a chance to play against Peyton Manning, and I think all those guys were great in their own right. I think Pat's well on his way, but I would love to see him just continue to improve and do it for just more than 2 years.
Who's the guy you have the most respect for that you played against?
Tom Brady. I mean, he's resilient. It doesn't matter if he throws a touchdown, if he throws an interception. He's laser focused, and he's on to the next play.
Do you think he should stay?
I think he should. I think it's best for him. I hope it's best for him. My selfish opinion, I think it's best for him, but I think it's best for the Patriot organization.
But it's also it's hard, and look, you've done this, right? You switch franchises. You've been in one franchise. All of a sudden, they do everything differently, and then you're a quarterback. Now there's a different quarterback language. You either have to teach the entire organization your style, or you have to come around to their style. And the older you get, the harder that gets.
I think if he does choose to switch organization, he takes the language with him, a la Peyton Manning, what he did in Denver.
Yeah, and Peyton Manning's first year, he did throw 50 touchdown passes, so it wasn't that tough for him to adjust. The one thing, though, is that, last year he skipped OTAs. He ain't skipping OTAs if you're trying to teach everybody offense.
I don't think he does, but I just don't envision a situation where he leaves New England. I can't see it with my two eyes.
All right, most importantly, Giannis, LeBron tonight, who you like?
Giannis.
Why?
I think LeBron is spectacular. He's one of the best basketball players to ever walk the planet Earth. But I just think the Bucks are a much better team. They're deeper. Giannis is a freak of nature. I've never seen anything like it from an athletic standpoint. I've never seen a guy 6'11" that can dribble and can make shots.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, honestly, some nicknames I don't like, right? But the Greek freak, yeah, that works. Yeah. That works because he's a freak. He just does things. You're like, I can't believe how well he moves, and the Euro steps and all the athletic movement that he has, the vision he has, the improvement that he's made is. And his body's changing as well is crazy. Orlando Scandrick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next, why Steph's absence this year was the best thing to ever happen to the Warriors in the future. That's upcoming next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Weather can be unpredictable on the roads, but that doesn't mean it can't be tamed. Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades are real-world proven for extreme weather performance, lasting 2 times longer than other blades. New Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades today, only available at Walmart. Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. Believe it or not, wiper blades may be available at Walmart, but hand sanitizer not so much. It is crazy. I mean, the hand sanitizer movement with the coronavirus is pretty remarkable. I am, though, somebody who, and I've done a good job today, Colin, same way, right? We have a tendency to go to the nose a little bit while on TV, right? I'm not sure I get knuckles deep like Colin has gotten knuckles deep occasionally. But I do, I fiddle with, it's a little bit like Ricky Bobby. What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands? So I'm just as guilty as anybody of the hands to the face, the nasal cavity, which is a big one for me, the eyes and the mouth or whatever. I thought that was great. That lady, did you guys see the viral video of the lady talking about all the things you can't do? And then she licks her finger and turns the page. It's great. What are you talking? What you don't do is you don't lick your finger. And yes. I was talking about the perfect storm with John Goulet. And the nor'easter is the perfect storm, right? The nor'easter, wicked nor'easter. You got the Alberta Clipper coming in from Canada. You got the low-pressure system comes in from the United States, from the contiguous United States. You got a high-pressure system off in the Atlantic Ocean, off the eastern seaboard, and the storm just gets stuck, and it cycles in there, and you get dumped to snow, which is great if you're a kid, right? If you're like a little kid's like, snow day! But if you're any kind of adult after you sled with your kid or throw a couple snowballs, you're like, okay, ready for it to be cleared off and ready to move on with my life. I think the Golden State Warriors are not only a product of the perfect storm the first time around, they may have created some both artificially and organically, the perfect storm the second time around for reincarnation of a dynasty. Take a listen to Steve Kerr. So Steph Curry played last night. What do you have, 23 points? 23 points in 27 minutes. I know they didn't win, but again, that's perfect for them. Here's Steve Kerr on what it means to have Steph back.
To me, it feels like, it's on again. We're now through the woods, as I said before the game. We can start looking ahead and using these games to prepare ourselves for trying to reach a higher level of play.
Think about all the things that came together so perfectly for the Warriors the first time around, right? They got Steph in the NBA draft, and when they got Steph, remember that was after the Timberwolves selected not one but 2 point guards ahead of him, right? And they end up taking him. And among other things, obviously Draymond Green in the second round of the draft, he was heavy, he was undersized, he was a bad fit for the classic NBA. During Steph Curry's first contract, he had so many ankle injuries, and he was seen as a guy who couldn't really defend at a high level. There was something there, but even the Warriors offered the Bucks either Monte Ellis or Steph Curry. Pick one, because we want Andrew Bogut. Some of it is dumb luck, but they retained Steph Curry and got rid of Monte Ellis. Steph was not healthy enough long enough so that his second contract was, I think, 4 years, $44 million, which is a lot of money to you and me, but considering he's a two-time MVP, he wasn't a max contract in his second contract guy because of injuries, and no one really knew what he was going to be. I mean, think about it. Had the Knicks been in better shape, been a little bit better run, and maybe part of it was location, but Steve Kerr was going to be the head coach of the Knicks. Instead, he becomes the head coach, turns it down, becomes the head coach of the Warriors. All of these things just kind of lined up. Klay Thompson being drafted. Remember, Jerry West was helping make those draft selections. That was because Jerry West was out of L.A. with the Lakers. Right? He had a falling out with the Lakers, specifically with Phil Jackson. He leaves, and he's the one who helped advise the Warriors. And Jerry West is King Midas in the NBA. Everything he touches turns to gold. I mean, you could go through and, Andre Iguodala, they get him relatively on the cheap. I don't think Andre Iguodala is a starting caliber player, but he's a finishing player for them, playing the 5. They were ahead of the curve playing small ball before anybody else could. The volume of three-point shots before anybody else did. Now the second time around, Steph comes back, but they're so buried in last place. They're 3 games back of anyone else for the most ping pong balls for the lottery. They have that first-round pick. In addition, they have next year's Minnesota Timberwolves pick. When Steph is at full strength and Klay is at full strength next year and Draymond is at full strength next year, they also have gone out and added a third scorer who's not Kevin Durant, but he's also better than Harrison Barnes, right? And Andrew Wiggins. Kevon Looney's been hurt most of this year, hurt last year in the playoffs. You combine that with the Lakers are going for it now. The Clippers are going for it now. The idea that the Lakers will be better next year, kind of hard to believe. And in 2 years, what's LeBron going to look like in 2 years? What's his body going to look like? How many games will he be able to play? And the Clippers, God bless them, they might be the best team in the NBA, but the likelihood of them sustaining success. Paul George hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. He's definitely going to be healthy next year. The Rockets, this feels like their one last grasp for air. Between Steph coming back just in time so that he does get some run this year, Klay spending the entire year rehabbing, so he'll be at full strength next year. Draymond Green sitting, not playing, but laying in wait and will finally be completely healthy next year. Andrew Wiggins learning about how they want to play, learning how to play with Steph, but no big games until next year. And then they could have the number 1 overall pick or move that pick so that they can have a bunch of they got draft equity they can move. Combine that with the Lakers being older, The Clippers showing no ability to sustain success as of yet. The Rockets seeming like this is the last year before they're done. And then good luck if you're the Milwaukee Bucks playing next year under the shadow of Giannis potentially becoming a free agent, right? I think this pause is the perfect storm for the Warriors to be back atop. Now, has the league adjusted and evolved and everybody plays small ball? Yes, but no one has Steph and Clay both on their roster. And if Andrew Wiggins is your third or fourth most important player and he buys into what you want to do, and then you can add more pieces with the draft equity that they have, chance to be something special. Coming up, the Clippers' plan is ultimately coming together, much like Ocean's 11. I'll prove it to you next. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1.
Was that 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. And like Mike Tyson's like 5'10", 5'11". Those dudes are giants. They're 6'9" and 6'7". And as much as I think everybody respects Tyson Fury and the demolition of Deontay Wilder, I can't remember a time in my life when any human being on earth was as scary to everyone, but as fascinating to everyone as Mike Tyson. All right, We'll get to why that matters later on in the hour. Plus, we've got some Drew Brees for you. I can't wait to get to this draft discussion. But last night, the Clippers take down the Rockets 120-105. 120-105. And some of it is matchups, right? The genius to the Clippers is they can play fast, they can play slow, they can play big, they can play small. I have a friend who says this, like, the guys who are the best in terms of relationships with people can go uptown and downtown, right? They can wear a tuxedo and look like James Bond, or they can wear sweats and just look like one of the fellas. Same thing with women, right? Like beautiful, beautiful women look just as good with no makeup as they do when they're done up to the nines. Hair up, hair down, doesn't matter. In a ponytail, don't care. Beautiful women are beautiful women. Short hair, long hair, it doesn't matter. It translates uptown and downtown. That's what the Clippers are. Right? The Clippers match up better with the Rockets than the Lakers do. That's kind of by design. Like they're kind of more universally flexible in terms of their matchups, whereas the Lakers are who they are, and because they haven't really been able to solve their guard issues, they're going to continue to be who they are. And LeBron does kind of hide some of their weaknesses, and his ability to play multiple positions, his previous ability to guard multiple positions, and just the attention that he draws hides other people's weaknesses. But when I watched the Clippers last night, that loss wasn't about the Rockets, missing 35 threes. They were 7 of 42. Wasn't about that. Wasn't about all the layups that they gave up to the Clippers. We know the Rockets, when push comes to shove, are not only going to give up layups, going to miss three-point shots that they're going to keep taking, and they're probably going to lose at home. All of which happened last night. None of this is a surprise. But what I think is a surprise to people is how the plan is coming together for the Clippers. The plan reminds me of Ocean's 11, right? Remember they're sitting around as George Clooney's character, Danny, and they're sitting around with Brad Pitt. What else are we going to need? A Boski, a Jim Brown, a Miss Daisy, 2 Jethros, a Leon Spinks, and an Ella Fitzgerald, right? And at the time, you're like, wait, what? And then you start to realize, right, that Danny just got out of jail. He's not supposed to leave the state. He happens to go, his ex is now, is dating Benedict, who runs the 3 most powerful casinos, and they all feed one casino. And so he's motivated to rob Benedict. Even the night of the heist, right? They got to have the power go out. Can see what his security team sees and feed them the wrong footage. All those. Paul George is happy. He's at home. He's healthy. Like, it's all kind of coming together. And, yeah, last night felt like the meeting where you start to go like, okay, at first you're like, you're going to rob? You're going to steal from an impenetrable vault? And then you lay the plan out. You're like, I don't know. And you start to go, this is why this will work. And this is why that will work. And maybe last night was an aha moment. Right? Maybe last night's the moment where you're like, oh, that plan is coming together. Because the Clippers did not plan on being great in January or December or November. And they don't even necessarily want to be great now, but they want to continue to show improvement on that S curve. On that S curve. They throttled the Rockets last night. The Rockets were not terribly competitive. And oh, yeah, by the way, Sunday, they got the Lakers, whom they're already 2 games better than in head-to-head. They're 2-0 against them. And so now the Clippers can lay and wait and try and beat the Lakers again and put the league on notice. Things you never thought were possible, right? Ocean's 11, it's not possible to rob a vault in Vegas. Remember the start of the movie where they're talking about 3 guys, the closest they ever got? One guy was wearing the Miami Vice stuff, and he gets shot, and the money goes up in the air, and they're playing the Miami Vice soundtrack. Like, they play the 3 guys, you're like, that can't happen. That's the same thing as the Clippers. No one ever thought the Clippers would be the best team in the NBA, but here we are. No one ever thought you could rob a casino in Vegas, let alone 3. But they did. Granted, it was a movie. Last night was the Clippers' plan coming together quite nicely. And if they can pull off this ultimate heist and win a championship, oh, yeah, by the way, part of the plan, Steve Ballmer getting sued by MSG because he's trying to build an arena, he'll just buy his arena, you know? MSG, Madison Square Garden, it's a company, they own the Forum, the former home of the Lakers. And MSG is suing Steve Ballmer so that he can't build his own new arena down the street from the Forum, even though the Forum doesn't actually host basketball events anymore. So Steve Ballmer's probably watching another one of my favorite TV shows, Billions. You guys ever seen Billions? The very first episode, there's a line goes something like this. What's the point of having FU money if every once in a while you don't say FU? That's Steve Ballmer. What? They want to block me from building an arena because they own an arena down the street? Oh, how much is their arena? Okay. You know, what's the point of having FU money if you can't say FU? And it's all coming together. It's a well laid out plan that there's a possibility it doesn't work, right? Was it Yang? Was that the acrobat? Like if he doesn't stick the landing and he falls onto the floor and the alarms go off, and remember he hurt his hand when he was trying to show off and he gets closed, right? Like if that doesn't, we're still depending on Paul George to stay healthy, Kawhi Leonard to stay healthy. And even last year when Kawhi's the hero in Toronto, he misses that shot. What was the shot against? The shot was against the 76ers, right? If he misses in Game 7, that goes to overtime. We may have a different NBA champion. We may look at Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid completely differently. Same thing has to happen this year. They have to make shots. They have to stay healthy. But the plan is being executed to a T. The plan for the Clippers is to not be good in your first 10, your second 10, or even your first 30 or 40 games. It's now. It's in these important games. Put the league on notice. Do you own or rent your home? Surely you do. Fortunately, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and auto insurance. It's a good thing, too, because having a home is hard work. Go to geico.com to get a quote and see how much you could save. Geico.com. It's easy. All right, coming up next, we'll tell you who the best quarterback in the draft is. This is The Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
When you're buying a car, the process can be overwhelming. Now there's a better way with TrueCar. Go to TrueCar, build your car, and compare models by options. From discovery to pricing to reviews, get everything you need with the new TrueCar. Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is, in fact, The Herd. All right, we gave you The Perfect Storm. All right, another movie. That was Wahlberg. Wahlberg was in that movie, wasn't he? Wahlberg was here. And Clooney was in that movie too. All right, then we gave you a little Ocean's 11. I told you my daughter in film class was watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? God. That's the one thing about California. We had bad weather, I think last week, right? We had a little rain. But we don't really have like a day which is so rainy that in March you can go like, all right, let's just watch movies all day. We had one of those one weekend day. It was Sunday we had some rain. Kind of missed that. Maybe not. It's going to be 75 and sunny later on. We'll come in next week. Let's get to the Cowherd Global Satellite Network, where Mike Renner joins us from Pro Football Focus. He is their lead NFL draft analyst. And, Mike, you guys at PFF do a great job and make people like me a lot smarter about how you're supposed to see football. Let's start with the Combine. Coming out of it, we didn't see Joe Burrow throw, but we did hear Joe Burrow talk. Based upon your analysis, is he actually the best quarterback prospect in this draft?
Yes, I think undoubtedly yes. And it makes it easy because Tua Tagovailoa had that hip injury. I mean, without that hip injury, I think there is an actual conversation here. But from pretty much any sort of data, charting, ball placement, grading perspective, Joe Burrow is the best college quarterback we've ever graded. In our 6 years of doing this, we chart every single throw, the placement of it. He is in another tier of accuracy. Like Tua Tagovailoa coming out is on a similar tier in terms of like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, some guys of your past, Jared Goff, in terms of accuracy throwing down the football field. But Joe Burrow is 10 or so percentage points above those guys. And I'm of the opinion that you could throw a Matthew Stafford, a Kirk Cousins onto a college football field, and they would not have played as well as Joe Burrow did last year. Like, he was so in command of that LSU offense, and his accuracy was to such a degree that, I mean, he's the best prospect I've seen since probably Andrew Luck coming out of college.
Wow. Wow. Tell me how you really feel, I guess. Okay, so if there's a weakness, where is it?
I think the weakness is like on the football field this past year, arm strength. Throwing outside the numbers, the offense was very much, when it was down the football field, it was over the middle of the field. And he didn't have to make, in the NFL, it's sort of, you're going to have to make those throws outside the numbers. You're going to have to hit the deep comeback, the deep out at times. He does not have Josh Allen arm strength, does not have Justin Herbert type of arm strength. And it's just something you didn't see him do necessarily at the college level. But besides that, outside of that, he was playing just exceptional football. I mean, like I said, it was nothing like we've ever seen before. No. Any sort of negatives after that were from years past.
No, look, any of us who, Colin and I, we watch college football a ton. I go to games every year, and we've always thought, what would it be like, and over the last couple of years, what would it be like if Alabama had a legit stud quarterback? We've seen that with Tua. And then you always thought, what if LSU actually had an offense that was 21st century and a quarterback? They put both on the field at the same time and lit up not just the SEC but all of college football. Let's get to your mock draft. Mike Renner, our guest, Pro Football Focus is the website. On your mock draft, you have Tua going number 2 to the Redskins. Okay, they just drafted a quarterback last year who started and was kind of decent down the stretch. Why do you believe Tua will go number 2?
Well, so the Redskins drafted Dwayne Haskins. Ron Rivera did not draft Dwayne Haskins. Doug Williams, now the GM, did not draft Dwayne Haskins. It was Bruce Allen who made that call. Jay Gruden obviously was the head coach there, now gone. They might not have liked him coming out. A lot of teams who needed quarterbacks passed on Dwayne Haskins. He was far from a perfect prospect, and what he showed as a rookie was not that good. And so if Tua Tagovailoa, if he does pass the health all the health tests with that hip, whatever, and it's an asterisk that you got to mention every time, but if he passes all of those, he's an objectively better prospect than Dwayne Haskins was coming out. This guy played better football as a true freshman than, Joe Burrow was last year as a redshirt junior. We've never really seen a guy play excellently every single year of his college career. Even, Jameis Winston, when he was coming out, took that kind of a step back before he ended up getting drafted. Tua just really never played bad football. Even this past year, the only reason he's not, the number 1 overall pick is because Joe Burrow took this leap out of nowhere. Tua, he's got accuracy, pocket presence, good enough arm. And like I said, has played excellent football for 3 straight seasons. So, he's a franchise type of quarterback. And if you don't have a franchise quarterback, any other position that you can draft is not going to give you the value that could be recouped from making that sort of leap from an average QB like Haskins kind of was last year to a franchise guy like Tua could be. And
it is interesting. You mentioned Doug Williams and his prominence within the organization as a former Redskin quarterback. He was the one who's been quoted multiple times as saying that Dwayne Haskins was gallivanting around, kind of leading us to believe he wasn't working hard enough. That's why he struggled so mightily with the playbook. You do really not get a second chance to make a first impression. And then you factor in that no one, in terms of the coaches in the organization, has any ownership over that draft pick. It makes it fascinating to see if for a second year in a row a team could draft and start a rookie quarterback and then draft another quarterback, just like Arizona did last year. All right, that would mean they're passing on Chase Young. Okay, so there's Chase Young and there's Joey and Nick Bosa, right? So I would guess, and look, Joey's been really good, but he's been hurt a good amount. Nick was probably the best football player on the field in the Super Bowl. Where is Chase Young? If I say Chase Young, better than one of, both of? Compare, contrast he with the Bosas.
Chase Young, very similarly in terms of technically sound, in terms of has a full pass rushing skill set already. But I think athletically, he's on another level from what those guys were. Those guys were big, strong dudes. Chase Young's a big, strong dude, but also explosive off the line. Also a little bit longer than those two in terms of what he brings to the table. So Chase Young really, in my opinion, again, I talked about Joe Burrow in a very, a favorable light. I think he's a better prospect than Myles Garrett was coming out. I think a better prospect than Jadeveon Clowney, at least more polished product. Those guys, freak athletes in their own right. Chase Young's this freak athlete who is also extremely polished as a pass rusher. There wasn't a game. One-on-one interactions. I saw so few last year where he legitimately got handled and lost because he is just that physically and technically dominant at this point. You just saw that Northwestern rep where that was the very first play of the game. 8 of the next 10 passing dropbacks in that Northwestern game, they rolled their quarterback the complete opposite side. Yeah. Just completely changed their offense so they could not have to block Chase Young. That's how dominant he was.
He's an absolute freak. And Ndamukong Suh, I know different position, different style, but most dominant player I can remember since Ndamukong Suh, who I thought should have won the Heisman Trophy as best football player when he was at Nebraska. Okay, so a lot of people are wondering what the Dolphins are going to do, right? They put out there well, maybe we'll stay at quarterback. Look, they tanked to get a quarterback. Everyone thought they loved Tua. Some people think they love Herbert. Some people think they love Burrow, and they'll make some huge, we'll give you whatever you want for Burrow. If the Dolphins are at 5, you think they take Herbert?
That's a tough one. I do think they will. And I honestly think someone might even try to trade up for Justin Herbert. And it doesn't have a ton to do with what he's shown on the football field already. Besides, he has this cannon for an arm. And he actually, it's odd to say, he has a very strong arm and he's pretty accurate as well. I don't really have too many question marks about that. So when a guy has cannon and is accurate, usually you're talking about, a number 1 overall pick. That was kind of Carson Wentz coming out. But I think there's parts of his game that are just super concerning. I mean, any big game, any real defense, he really just crumbled. He struggles to find opportunities to throw the ball down the football field. And with his big arm, doesn't have a ton of, special highlight reel throws on his tape. Some of that's the Oregon offense. A lot of that, though, is just the mental makeup. Something is off there to me. I really don't want to be the team that takes that chance. But NFL evaluators, they think they can get him in the building and sort of they can form him to their offense. They can get the best out of him. And there is some, sort of precedent for that. There have been guys in the past who have had more success in the NFL than they did in college. Guys like Brett Favre and even Josh Allen come to mind in that regard. But, man, I just, like I said, I don't want to be the team that takes that chance with as many of those duds as we saw on this tape.
It's interesting. I see on your mock, you have Isaiah Simmons, who's, you want to talk about freak linebacker, right, going to the Chargers. And it's interesting that when you mention the Chargers and their personnel and you talk about Tom Brady and whatever, I'm not sure people have a healthy enough respect for what they have talent-wise in the defensive side of the ball. Like Derwin James was the rookie of the year, was an all-pro as a rookie. He was hurt last year. He's not going to be worse. He's going to be better. You have Joey Bosa. You have Melvin Ingram. For people who haven't heard the name Isaiah Simmons, they've only seen the ridiculous numbers coming out of the combine. Who is he? What is he as a player?
He is the modern chess piece. I mean, he's basically Derwin James, but then put on about 20 more pounds. That's what this guy is as an athlete and as a football player. He made a pick from the middle of the field safety role in the Ohio State game in the semifinal as a 238-pound, linebacker / safety. That's just, you don't see guys doing that at any level. And so he has definitely earned that freak label. And pairing him with Derwin James, I mean, we talk about offenses sort of dictating the way defenses have to play football nowadays. I think you could dictate the way offenses have to play football if you have those two, and how much opposing offenses have to account for them when they can blitz, drop into coverage, all at a super high level. So I do think he'd be a perfect fit for the Chargers. And like you said, people kind of forget 2 years ago when Derwin James was healthy, this was one of the best defenses, top 3 defense in all of the NFL. You add him to the mix, you get Jerry Tillery in year 2, hopefully adding some pass rush to that interior, and all of a sudden, Chargers could be right back in the mix if they get a QB in free agency.
All right, speaking of QB, one of the things they'd have to go through is the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you saw this with Pat Mahomes on the barbershop. Said like, hey, I didn't even know how to I knew how to read defenses, but really didn't understand what I was reading until this past midway through last season when he was the MVP. There are people that compare Jordan Love to Pat Mahomes. Didn't have a great year, but has a world of talent. Developmental quarterback, potentially star quarterback. When I say Jordan Love, what do you see?
You see the talent. I mean, I get those comparisons. I would not make that comparison, but I get it because he has this sort of natural quarterbacking in terms of adjusting arm angles, making plays outside the pocket, throwing guys open. But even Patrick Mahomes on his tape back at Texas Tech did not have as many bad decisions on his tape, was not putting the ball in harm's way, didn't have the accuracy. I think that's the biggest thing also is just his feet are kind of all over the place all the time. He's never set. And yes, to some degree, you could fix those up, clean those things up. But when your feet are all over the place and you're not accurate with the football, I don't think you're necessarily going to all of a sudden get accurate. Like Patrick Mahomes, when he throws from off platform and when he does things, that don't look super, by the book quarterback, he's still accurate with the football. Jordan Love, when he tries to do them, a lot of times it doesn't come out where he wants it to go. So I don't want to be the team that takes a chance on the guy who almost threw as many picks last year as touchdowns. I get that it was a bad situation, but there's just so much bad. And even when it was his best year, way back in 2018, when he did have, statistically a much better year, there's still a lot of inaccuracy on that tape. And accuracy is just the biggest the biggest trait you can have projecting from college to the NFL. And if you're not throwing at a high level accuracy-wise, I'm just not going to draft you, top 10 to 15 like he's rumored to be going.
All right, that's Mike Renner, lead draft analyst for Pro Football Focus. Mike, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for joining us in the Herd.
For sure, Doug. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, that's Mike Renner on the Herd Global Satellite Network. Some of you on the TV side are going to get sent to NASCAR out in Phoenix. In the meantime, for those of you on radio, let's get to John Goulet with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So, Doug, you already alluded this a little bit with Mike, but Patrick Mahomes already has a Super Bowl ring, Super Bowl MVP, regular season MVP, and he actually thinks he has a lot to improve upon. During an episode of HBO's The Shop, not Barbershop, The Shop, he said that figuring out the mental aspects of the game has only come recently. Take a listen.
I started playing quarterback junior year of high school. That's when I really started playing quarterback until now, which is, I think, 6 years. I didn't understand how to read defenses until like halfway through last year. I understood coverages, but how to be able to pick up little tendencies defenses do, stuff that Brady and them have done, they know it and they just do it.
Second nature.
I was just playing, and I still think there's a long way for me to go there. And that's where mentally I think I can get better. Physically, I feel like I've done a lot of stuff. I always work on the fundamentals and doing that stuff, but I think mentally I can still take my game to a whole nother level.
The Shop Uninterrupted airs Saturday, 10 p.m. on HBO. As terrifying as this is to ask, Doug, is Mahomes going to get better?
He's not going to get worse.
Well, no, but the idea that he's just using raw talent to do what he's accomplished already, it's scary.
It is scary. Now, sometimes you can overthink things. You know, sometimes you can not necessarily see ghosts. And, you know, he has the natural confidence. I also think it does point out, like, I'm sure there's guys in the Bears organization that are patting themselves in the back because there were not only questions coming out of college whether or not he could read defenses and understand defenses, but in terms of his work ethic.
Yeah.
Which, remember, this is a year and a half in. Now, the good thing for Mahomes is he has shown that whatever his reputation in college was, missing some meetings, just kind of a dude who liked to hang out. Great. Yeah. No one says a bad word about him, but he's, you know, what limited Mike Vick, he's even said, was his work ethic. You know, that you don't come in knowing everything. I remember Eli Manning said this after one of his terrible years towards the end of this, like maybe 4 years ago. He's like, look, I'm not a worse quarterback than I was when we won a Super Bowl. I know a lot more. I see a lot more. I may have played bad, but I'm not actually bad. Some of it is the environment, everything around you, and you throw a bad ball. So, look, I think he has a chance if he continues. This is the challenge of success because he's been able to get away with reading half the defense and sort of knowing it and winging it. And now when everybody tells you there are already people who are like, yeah, carve out the bust in Canton. Look at what he's already done. And it's not a terrible argument that if he retired today, he should be a Hall of Famer. He won MVP, won a Super Bowl MVP. He's the best quarterback in football the last 2 years. That's not, how many people do that? But the challenge is to locking in and continue to get better, to continue to get smarter. As they will adjust, they will evolve. Your skill set, your athletic skill set may diminish a little bit. The talent around you may diminish a little bit. And you have to continue to build. You know, there's a continuum, right? On one end, you got athletic ability. On the other end, you got football IQ. That has not yet met in the middle. And we'll see if his football IQ continues to grow. Yes, there is limitless potential.
So one of the biggest reasons for the Browns' disappointing 2019 season was their offensive line.
Sure.
Pro Football Focus had them rated 23rd, which when I looked that up, that actually seemed better. I thought it would be lower than that. There is some good news for the Browns, though. There are good linemen available. Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com is reporting the Browns are looking into signing Eagles tackle and 9-time Pro Bowler Jason Peters. So the Eagles have said they're not going to keep this year. Can still play, just has injury problems, and they have a young tackle to take his spot. And they're also looking into a trade for Redskins tackle, 7-time Pro Bowler Trent Williams, who the Redskins said have given permission to explore a trade. He's had issues with their medical staff. He doesn't want to be a Redskin anymore. They were kind of digging their feet in that they just weren't going to trade him. Now they've changed their mind on that. Are the Browns kind of that key team that could be like a turnaround, have a quick turnaround because
absolutely
they have a lot of talent?
They had no discipline, and now look, I think here's where it makes sense is Bill Callahan, who is the interim head coach, was the offensive line coach. Apparently has a good relationship with Trent Williams. He's now the offensive line coach of the Browns.
Yeah.
They need offensive line help. They have a first-round draft pick that, if I'm the Redskins, we're trying to get young and better. Like, have him. We'll take your pick. Let's move on. Move on with our day.
I mean, offensively, right? They have running backs. They have receivers. They have an athletic tight end. If they can block a little bit, we know Baker's accurate when he has room to throw.
Yes.
He just isn't. He's not athletic enough to run away.
Also, remember this. Like, look, it's not like the Steelers were great last year, and no one has any idea what Ben Roethlisberger is going to look like at this age, coming off of Tommy John.
I know he's going to look a little thick.
He's going to look a little thick. but he's been. He's been,
Sure.
But, like, we have no idea how good they actually are. The Bengals are in rebuild mode, right? They had a great 6 or 7 year run, 5 years in a row in the playoffs. They're in rebuild mode.
Yep.
The Ravens were the best team in the league, but I do think that they're going to come back down to earth. They had some things that go bump in the night for them.
Yep.
And I would guess that people are going to figure out and build their team to stop their style, especially in their division.
Yeah.
Yes, the Browns were some people's Super Bowl pick for a reason. They have a plethora of talent. Now, I don't know what they do with Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if Kevin Stefanski can manage those egos because they didn't throw the ball a ton. I do think that Baker Mayfield is losing weight and totally buying in. I think their offense, yes, I think all of those things could be perfect. You go from the lack of discipline to discipline this year. I think it could work. But you're going to need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
And you're going to need to figure out what to do with Odell Beckham Jr. if you decide to make this trade.
And it's not often that there are two offensive linemen of that caliber available. That doesn't usually happen. And finally, Doug, the Knicks have always prided themselves on their attendance at Madison Square Garden, despite being one of the least successful franchises in the NBA. This will be their 7th consecutive season missing the playoffs, and it will complete a stretch of 20 seasons where they won one playoff series total.
Wow.
But the fans always kept showing up, so who cared? That is until they made Spike Lee mad. Spike vowed he would not go to another Knicks game, home game this season.
Yes.
And on Wednesday night, they had the lowest attendance they had at MSG in 13 years in a loss to the Jazz. Should the Knicks maybe try to reconcile with Spike a little bit? Whether you side with him or not, clearly the fans are with Spike because those fans show up to see a lot of bad basketball, but not anymore, apparently.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, right? The Raptors still come. The Clippers still come in. Tonight, the Thunder come in. Like, they're still – it's not like he's bailing and all it is the Hornets. You still have the Heat.
The Jazz are a playoff team with a fun player to watch in Donovan Mitchell. I'd go see that guy play.
And he's from Connecticut. He's relatively hometown. Yes, I'm with you. Look, but my one problem with Spike is I've gone in the 31st Street exit. Anybody who's ever done a game there, that's the one. You go in the employee exit. I didn't know they had a celebrity entrance, whatever, celebrity entrance and exit, whatever. And I get crazy security guy, and he's making a scene. My thing with Spike is, look, if you really mean it, you can't say, I'm not going to another game this year, but I'll go next year. You got to go hey, I'm not going until Jim Dolan goes on TV and apologizes, or until Jim Dolan sells the team. Because otherwise,
I think he loves the Knicks too much to do that. You know?
What is the Ariana Grande song? I had to lose you to love me.
I promise I don't know.
I had to lose you to love me. Is that Selena Gomez? Same thing. Selena Gomez, right? It's a classic cliche. If you love somebody, you got to let them go. Don't you? Set them free? Come back to you? I think that's what he's got to do. That's John Goulet with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
I don't think it's time to take the keys from Grandpa just yet, but at some point in time, somebody may need to take the keys from Grandpa. Here's what I mean. There was a comedian I saw once. He was just like, you're old. You're old when people start talking about you in front of you, right? What are we going to do with Pop? We got company coming over. I don't want him at my house. He smells, right? Like, hey, I'm sitting right here. That's how you know you're old. So they start talking about, just put him out in the garage. You know what? Turn the TV on. He won't say anything crazy except to the TV. What are we going to do about Pop? That's how you know you're old. Okay? I don't think Drew Brees is to that spot where we're going to start talking about him in front of him. I don't think we have to take the keys away because, Pop can't really control a car anymore. He nearly took out a lady down at Vaughn's. We need to have him either Uber or have somebody else, have one of the grandkids drive him around. But Drew Brees mentioned on a Boston radio station that he doesn't sound ready to quit just yet.
I'm not just saying this, but honestly, I'm 1 year at a time. I'm 1 year at a time. Now, listen, if you ask me how long do I think I could do this, I think I could do this to age 45 or beyond.
You do?
I'm 41 right now, but there's other factors. It's not just a matter of can you do it. It's what are you sacrificing in order to be able to play this game and give it the time and dedication that it deserves. Truly, 3 years ago, I said this might be my last season, so I'm going to play it like it's my last. And you know what? I've had more fun playing the game of football. I've enjoyed the locker room that much more, and I've enjoyed the plane rides home that much more, and we've had a ton of success that way. So that's the approach I'm taking.
All right, 3 straight heartbreaking defeats, and he's obviously seen the bigger picture, which you like. But the idea of playing till you're 45, who else have we heard say play till you're 45? Oh, that would be Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, right? And I would love for Brees to come out and go like, hey, look, I'm going to play as long as that other guy plays because I worked really hard to get these passer records. Like, I worked really hard to get these records. And I'm never really recognized in the GOAT conversation. People don't mention, they mention Dan Marino. They don't mention me. Now, you talk about all these other quarterbacks, they never mention me. And I like these records. Like, we're supposed to say records are meant to be broken, but they're supposed to be broken like 20, 30 years later so that people remember just how awesome you were. I do wish that Drew Brees would say, I'm going to play as long as Brady plays and not a second shorter because I want to have all those all-time records. He can't have them. He can have his 6 rings because he got to play in New England, and though they got penalized, they get penalized like we did for Bountygate. You know, I took over a historically losing franchise coming off of shoulder surgery and made it into, you know, a perennial contender with the exception of that 3 years after the Super Bowl where they stunk. But at some point, somebody's going to have to point out to Drew Brees, like, hey, dude, we love you. You're a Hall of Famer. Whatever the over-under is for Drew Brees' career, he's hit the over 10 times. 10 times. But Brees, after his 12th game, has not been good. Last year was an outlier in terms of performing well in the playoffs because he had a bunch of games off because he got hurt. And, oh, yeah, by the way, when push comes to shove, they didn't move the ball. He did throw a big pick. He didn't play well against the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm not saying you retire him, you put him out to pasture already. But I do think that at some point this like, hey, I want to play till I'm 45. Like, yeah, that's great. You can drive your car. What's it Chris Rock says? You can drive your car with your feet, but that doesn't make it a good idea. You can play till you're 45, Drew. But in your late 30s and early 40s, you're getting progressively worse late in the season. What do you think happens in 2 or 3 years? Coming up next, I'll give you my top 5 athletic breakthrough moments of my lifetime. I'll share with you why. It's part of our Best for Last. It's next. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. This is The Herd. Avs Canucks today is Discover Card's key matchup. Discover matches all cash back you can earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. Even more amazing because Discover's accepted over 95% of the places in the U.S. to take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2019 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply. Hope you're having a great Friday. We had Carb Friday after our meeting. We carved it up. Man, did I have a great sandwich. Whew. Ooh, pretzel bagel scooped. Egg whites, cheese, avocado. Whew. But like, Gottlieb, you are really happy today. Where is the joy coming from? That's where. I did not scoop it myself. There's no more California bagel there than avocado added to a scooped bagel that is pretzel bagel is amazing. Today is the 35th anniversary of Mike Tyson's first fight. He defeated Hector Mercedes in the first round. I thought for the best for last, I'm going to give my 5 biggest breakthrough moments of all-time great athletes in my lifetime. Let's get to the best for last.
It's almost the end of the show, but that doesn't mean we're phoning it in. Nope, we grind to the very last segment. It's time for Best for Last.
Okay, do you remember the first time you saw Shaquille O'Neal? I do. He was a sophomore at LSU, and he was taking on number 2 Arizona. Arizona who became Bison Dele, Brian Williams as their center. They had pros on the inside. He had 29 points, 14 rebounds. Look at this block. Oh, he was doing the cabbage patch after dunking on dudes. That's the late, great Sean Rooks, another NBA player. You had two NBA big guys. Sean Rooks could not do anything with Shaquille O'Neal. 29-14, 6 blocks. LSU won 92-82. I mean, you look at him running the break and dropping off a dime like Magic Johnson. People forget how freaky athletic the Big Diesel was. All right, another breakthrough moment was Eldrick Tiger Woods 2000. Now, look, I grew up in Orange County, Southern California. Tiger Woods graduated same year high school I did. Everyone knew he was supposed to be the next great golfer. I don't know that if everyone knew, he wouldn't just win at Pebble in 2000. This is the year after he graduated college, year I graduated college. He won by 15 strokes. 15 strokes. He was the only golfer under par. Remember, it was the weirdest looking leaderboard ever. He's minus 12. The next closest competitor was 3 over. Miguel Angel Jimenez was 3 over. Ernie Els. These are great, Lee Westwood, always top 5, never wins a major. But these are guys that usually in a major, you're a couple strokes away, right? 15 strokes? First time, and we will always remember Tiger Woods. All right, I got one. Usain Bolt in 2016. You guys remember? He was so far ahead that he had time right at the finish line in the middle of the semifinals in Rio to look behind him. We knew Usain Bolt was fast, but usually it's, what's the old Seinfeldism, right? Seinfeld's first place, never heard of him, right? The difference between being first place and being in fourth place, never heard of him. Usain Bolt was so fast, so much faster in the split second of a 100-meter dash that he could actually look around. Bolt already had 6 gold medals. I could probably pick out a 2008 race, but I remember just showing how much faster than he was in the field was him looking around. I know Bo Jackson won the Heisman Trophy. I know they had the Bo Knows commercials. I would say the synonymous moment where the national audience understood what a freak of nature he was November 30th, 1987. Bo Jackson was a running back for the Oakland Raiders. They pitched the ball to Bo Jackson. He was playing in the Kingdome against the Seahawks, Colin Seahawks. He ran around, he got to the edge, and he ran, and he kept running, and nobody tackled him, and he actually ran up the tunnel. You're he's running out the building. Nobody could stop him. Nobody wanted to get in his way. It was also his 25th birthday, and he ran for 221 yards. If that's not a breakthrough moment, I don't know what is. And the last breakthrough moment of my lifetime was Michael Jordan. April 20th, 1986, the Bulls finished they were the last team into the playoffs, taking on the Boston Celtics. Remember, Jordan missed most of the year with a foot injury. He had a great rookie year, but then hurt most of his second year. And he had 63 against the Celtics. Remember, this is the Celtics with Bird, McHale, Parrish, Dennis Johnson. Nobody could guard him. Bird said after the game, he's the most exciting, awesome player in the game today. I think he's God disguised as Michael Jordan. That was Larry freaking Bird, who at the time, he and Magic Johnson were the 2 best players in the league. 63 points in a double overtime loss. That was the best team in the NBA, and he went in and for one day was far and away the best player on the court. Jordan against the Celtics, Bo Jackson against the Seahawks, Usain Bolt in the Olympics, Shaq against Arizona, Tiger Woods in 2000 at Pebble. They remind me of when I first saw Mike Tyson. I think Trevor Berbick fight was the first one I saw Mike Tyson. All right, college hoops all across the docket on FS1+. Plus, you got the XFL as well this weekend. Colin is back on Monday, and we'll see what happens. Lakers, Bucks tonight at Staples. Lakers, Clippers on Sunday at Staples. Should be a good one. Have a great weekend. I'm Doug Gottlieb. This is The Herd.
Hi, everyone. This is Rosalind Sanchez and Eric Winter, and we have a podcast called He Said, Ella Dijo.
Am I even a part of this thing? Can I say my own name?
Okay, say your name.
I'm Eric Winter.
Wow, interesting.
We have
Eric
a podcast called He Said,
Ella Dijo.
It's about our conflicting personalities and our differences of opinion about everything.
Guys, it's funny. Check it out.
Find He Said, Ella Dijo
on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcast,
or wherever you get your podcasts.